So welcome back from the desk below. Man, as you know, man, this show has been early on your favorite underground producer, your favorite underground MC. Right here, the gentleman you see in front of me right now, I found through one of my favorite artists. Now, when I did my research on him, I realized, man, he's a really humble guy, man. He should be way more cocky than what he should be, though. But it's only great to share my platform with him. And as you all know, that if you're familiar with his name from the title, his influences are from the likes of Alchemist, Lex Luger, Southside, and there's plenty more now. And if you do know his name, you know he had plenty of productions with Lloyd Banks, RJ Payne, upcoming production of Shady Noir. Man, I want to introduce the one and only Cartune Beatz.
How you doing, bro? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Or anytime, sir. Man of your talent deserves this recognition. Because we always say the producer deserves as much shine as the artist.
Agreed. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anytime, sir. So when I did my research on you, sir, were you born in Harlem?
Yes, I was. I was born on 140th and Lenox Avenue, so not too well, pretty much a street away from where Big L was living at the time, and that's where I grew up for a little bit. I bounced around a lot too. I ended up moving a couple of times, but up until I was about 10 or 11, that's where I lived.
Okay, because I'm not familiar with New York, but when I heard that you were from 140th and Lenox, I'm like, isn't that Cameron's old block?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yes, sir. That's the depths right there. If you're not familiar with the show, which you should be. So when you're coming up in Harlem now, what's a young man like you get? How do you get into producing? And I understand that you're growing up in a household of a twin brother, so you get to experience way more experiences when you have that sibling the same age. So how did you guys get into hip hop?
Well, we were always into hip hop. I have two older brothers that were always into hip hop, and we were younger. And technically not supposed to be listening to some of the hip hop, but they'd be home babysitting us, and they played it a lot. So we were familiar with hip hop at a very early age, and we always we always had something musically in our family. Like my mom, she played the bass guitar. So really, we just got into hip hop by listening. I didn't start actually making beats until about 2011, but I had the FL Studio program that I use. I had that I think I had that in like 2008, 2007, 2008, just sitting around on my computer, not really doing much. But music, it kind of ran throughout our family.
Okay, so like when you're listening and experiencing hip hop, when you're discovering all these new artists, like did you always know he's like, I want to make beats? So it's like, did you want to rap first?
There was like a small stint where you kind of joke around like rapping and stuff like that, but I never actually wanted to be.
Yeah.
I never actually wanted to be a rapper. I just I thought it was like cool, and being able to like rhyme words and tell a story. I always thought that was like cool and impressive, but never actually wanted to be a rapper myself. I was heavy into like sports and basketball, and I was an athlete, pretty much my whole life. So that was the main thing for me.
Yeah, because I understand like you didn't really start taking producing serious because I understand that you were doing basketball. You were playing two guard.
Yes.
So when growing up, because I'm not going to ask you your age though, but when you're growing up, who are some of the artists that you were listening to growing up?
Like GUnit, Lloyd Banks, Nas.
So we're like almost the same era right now. Okay.
But yeah, a lot of like the like the Cam'rons, a lot of the New York-based artists, but also like Ludacris,
T.I., Little Flip,
Little Wayne, a lot of like the lyrical down south artists as well. So I was always pretty broad with like my listening spectrum. I didn't just listen to like one particular like kind of rap or hip hop.
Yes, because you're experiencing it. It's like damn, like that's when like the early years of hip hop really strike you because you remember growing up what you discovered at that certain, like you remember where you were at that certain time and you hear like something certain. It's like I remember where this was.
Absolutely, yep.
Now, did you have a particular favorite artist growing up?
That's tough.
You can name like top three, let's say.
When I was like younger, when like, like 10, 11. Nas was definitely one of them. Not my favorite. But it kind of, I listened to so much music, it would kind of change as I, listened to more of an artist. So I just had
Right.
time periods where, for a certain time period, this artist was my favorite artist. And then for a second, time period, it'd be like another artist. And I wouldn't like stop listening to that previous artist that was my favorite, but I would
Yeah.
just, I kind of listened in sections for a while.
Okay, I fully understand it because you'll be put onto a certain movement. Like you can go from like a Cameron dip movement, and then you discover like the duck down movement, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is what I like now. But like I said, when discovering, you discover other kinds of hip hop. It's not just like party or story. Like there's actually concept albums, which I love.
Right.
Now I understand now too. I was going to ask you about the Fruity Loops then, but you kind of already answered that now too. Now, how did the name? When I listened to your interviews, I noticed that they never really asked you right off the start. Why the name Cartune Beatz? Like that's one of the. When I seen that name, I'm like, I already know this guy's gonna come up with
Well, I think you're the first one to actually ask that. So that's a great question, and it's one I kind of been waiting for somebody to ask. But
Should be asked.
the name is as it is. It's a spin off of the word cartoon. I'm like a big cartoon fan. I always have been, even though I'm an adult now. I'll still watch like any animated Justice League, Batman movie that comes out, even some of the animated Mortal Kombat movies, Street Fighters, X-Men, all of that. Like I've always been like like a really big fan of cartoons. So I was thinking of like a producer name for myself, and I just wanted to, kind of give myself something that represented, a little bit of like who I am, like outside of music, and
Yeah,
kind of tie it in. So I took the word cartoon and made it like, the tune part as tune
as
for
music.
music, right?
Okay, see, like I like how you explained it like that now too. He's like, I just switched like that because it was cool because you wanted something from your personal life to resonate with your music.
Right.
Now, I like how you said like anime Street Fighter now, like because I remember like all like the DC animated universe, like I watch all that. So I was like, yeah, okay, he knows what I'm talking about.
Yep. Still watching.
Hey, me and you both, brother. It's okay, man. It's cool nowadays. Now, I remember like when you're first like starting off on social media, like I remember like even discovering Twitter, like I'm not gonna learn how to use this, but it's kind of funny how Twitter survived throughout the years now too. Now, when you first made your Twitter, did you automatically know like I'm gonna use it as Cartoon Beats?
I had a Twitter, like a regular, I guess you could say like a personal Twitter. I had that lasted maybe like a month, but that kind of gave me the idea of like what Twitter was and how it can be used. So once I decided to take, music production serious and try to, network a little bit, see what I can do. Absolutely. I went into, I made my Twitter as Cartoon Beats, and that social media app, without that app, I wouldn't be where, I am right now, which is, being able to connect with some of these artists and climb the ladder. So Twitter actually played a very big role in, my advancement.
Man, you gotta love the internet for that. Now I understand now too, like Twitter. Like I remember, I also before I got into media, I had like the personal Twitter, like kind of what you had. But I remember '09 Twitter. Do you remember like '09 Twitter and like the 2010 and like when Fabulous was tweeting all the jokes? Like Twitter was a great time.
I honestly, I didn't make my Cartoon Beast Twitter. That was like 2011. But a
Okay,
lot of that, yeah, a lot of that was still going on at the time that I created it. So, Twitter was when Twitter first started, it was a great thing. It was pretty interesting time.
yeah, it was a time that can never be replicated.
Right.
Now I understand when coming up like with your twin brother, like did you guys like have a conversation on it? Because I understand he produces too, but
Right.
like did you guys both at the same time? Was like we're gonna do this.
Yeah, we both decided, because like when we first started making beats, he was like the buffer. I would send him what I make, he sent me what he would make, and we kind of grade each other on how we thought it was and things like that. But yeah, we both decided to take it serious at the same time because we both, just said, why not? What do we have? to lose. You know, all the reviews that we got for, you know, some of the beats we made when we first started, they weren't bad. You know, so I started like maybe a little bit before him,
Okay.
but not very much. Yeah, like honestly, I was probably a little bit more serious about it for like the first, you know, month. But you know, he wanted to follow suit as well. So
Okay, that's great to hear. Like how you can like even he's like, well, he's sticking with it. I'm getting into this too, so that's good to hear.
yeah.
Now, when coming up, like you said, like everyone discovers their music now too. But do you remember like when you said like some of the beats that you were getting good feedback on, were they like just beats that you were sending out, or were you sending them to actually like local artists?
Um, I found like a couple of artists through like Facebook because that was back when Facebook was like a good like marketing tool for like music and stuff like that. So I worked with like a couple like they weren't even local to me, but like a couple of like local artists from like the city. That's kind of how I started, and then from there I took it. You know, I kind of transitioned into just trying to broaden my reach. And you take like you take chances that on Twitter people were posting a lot more emails submissions for beats and stuff at that time. So it was kind of like a race, literally. Like somebody posts an email, that email fills up in like minutes sometimes. So as soon as you see it, you kind of have to have your beats ready, send, and then hope it gets through. And then on top of that, then you got to hope that you hear back. So that was pretty much that was pretty much my process and how that started. So
Yeah, it's like there was a saying I was like, it's like when you see it, it's like get ready, you ain't got get ready, stay ready, so you ain't gotta get
right.
ready. Yeah. And that takes a lot of talent for a producer now too, because like it's a certain artist that you like you see on there, and then you gotta make sure that you understand that artist's sound. So you have to make sure the right sound of beats are ready to go at that certain time.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I also like when I was doing my research on YouTube, like with the emails, you also brought up the topic about not being afraid of following up because sometimes a lot of people get discouraged. Like even like with media, like you may have to reach out a couple times for things to happen. So like what's with following up and how important is that to you? Because I find that like very important because people's like, oh, you're just begging. It's like, no, it's being professional.
Right. It's like if you get a contact from an artist, it's like and that's different. It's harder to follow up if somebody posts a public email and says send beats. But if they answer a DM and they send you an email back, you send beats. Usually like they'll respond like right there, saying like, hey, this is the email. You say, okay, I'm gonna send you something, and then like you send it. Typically if I don't hear anything, I give it I give it a little bit and then I follow up because what I found is that, artists are like very busy. They're doing a million different things at once. They're getting thousands of emails, thousands of texts. A lot of times it may not even be that, they think your beats are bad. They literally might have gotten a chance to listen to them. So follow up for me is very important. And I don't have, too much of an ego to reach out and say, hey, I sent those beats through, just want to double check to make sure you got them or you got a chance to, to listen to them. I don't see like any harm in doing that. And I think it's, you have to run it like a business and, professionally. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and it's not like you're hitting them up. It's like, oh, so you think my beats are whack? It's like, no, it's like you're just actually genuine question because it's like the slightest thing. Like they may be looking at their phone and like somebody may tap them on the shoulder, and then it's like little things like that.
Yep, that's literally all it takes. You can, or they could be looking through their email. They get up for a second, and by the time they get back to their emails, 10 more came in. So they were about to click on yours, but it's gone. So all those things you have to take into account. So I personally I like to follow up with anybody that I send to.
Well, that's good to know because it shows that you're serious and you're passionate about it now too. Because a lot of people, when they don't hear back, it's like, oh, okay, but like everyone, if you're listening, it's okay to follow up. Just be respectful and professional, let's say.
Yeah, as long as you're not like, blowing them up every single day. Did you check? Did you check? Did you check?
Yeah.
You could I give it a few days to a week. And then I try to like follow back up, you know. I mean, I like I said, I just think that's just like the best approach to at least make sure you gave yourself a chance to be heard, you know.
Well, of course. Now, this is like it's an experience that I actually experienced because I'm only 4 years into media, but everybody remembers who gave them their first shot at their dream. Everybody does. So I was curious about with you, like, who was the first person to give Cartune Beatz his shot at his dreams?
At what, sending beats, or you said, or
Or oh, sorry, actually like rapping over your production and like putting it out so people can hear. It could be local or big, like whatever person like sticks to you, gave you your first shot.
I gotta think. Who was the first one to actually rap out and put out a song? I think it was an artist from Staten Island. His name was Lou Hefner. I think it was him, the first one to actually put out like a record. Um, but yeah, I believe it was him.
Like, because when I YouTubed your name, because I just wanted to see like how long you've been doing it, and I've been seeing like beats from like 7 years ago or like 6 years ago. I was like, wow, he's been active for a long time now too. But a lot of people sometimes they just take the right artist to discover that producer.
Right. And you know, I was, you know, it can production, music industry in any shape or form, media, it can all get discouraging. And I had, you know, in between the time that I decided I wanted to take producing serious up until today, you know, I had like so many different things going on between also still being a college athlete, um,
Oh yeah.
getting a bachelor's degree, moving, kind of just figuring out life in between, you know. So there were like periods of time where, you know, I was you know, a little dormant, but I never like stopped for like a complete, you know, year. I probably had years where I was more consistent than other years, but you know, I never just completely never just completely stopped.
Yeah, because like sometimes like it's like what you said, life gets in the way. So it's just like I can't just do beats all the time. I gotta go out and get life together now too. But that's good that you stick with it now too. Like you don't let it discourage you. It's like, oh, I'm tired.
Right. I mean, once you start to get to like a certain point and you start to see you know, like the benefits of it, I always noticed that you know, the highest percentage of effort and work I put in is usually when I see results. And you know, sometimes you can catch yourself not doing as much as you should, but I noticed there's never been a time where I gave like 120% and I didn't get results. And that's a blessing and a gift because you know, there are producers out there that are giving 150% and they're like, you know, they're really going at it, and you know, they don't always they do that, and sometimes they don't get results, you know, so that can be even more discouraging for producers.
And plus, like I can do producing, but it takes a lot of patience to produce. Because I see people, I try, so I was like, I don't have the patience for this. So when you're producing, have you ever fully produced an album for an artist?
No, but I'm working on one now.
Okay, could you? Is it a like an underground artist?
Yes, RJ Payne.
Oh wow, okay, yo, salute, Payne. I see you. Okay, we'll get
Yeah.
into the bigger names after, but coming up now too, like, have you imagined like producing a full album for an artist, or did you just think like I'll be producing like singles and album cuts like on a producer project?
Oh no, I've always wanted to produce a whole album for, you know, multiple artists, not even just like the typical underground boom bap, but maybe like trap artists. Because one of the things I like to pride myself on is my diversity in production, which, you know, people haven't necessarily got to see yet, but as I progress, you know, they will. Um to like, you know, the different styles of beats that I can make. Like I don't like to think of myself as one dimensional. And again, you know, through time and over time, you know, I think that'll start to show.
Yeah, because like if you stick to a certain sound, it's like that's your lane. But if you want to experiment with other sounds, like I remember when you said that one of your influences was Lex Luger. Now, if y'all don't remember Lex Luger, the closest song, maybe you can name a better one, but the only one that I can think of is "Lights Out" by Fabulous.
Yeah. He Lex Luger was on like a crazy run for a while.
The
He's
early
actually
2010s.
Yeah, around again, obviously around, and I started taking it seriously around 2011. So yeah, he was like a big influence. I had FL Studio for a while, but it was at that time that I realized that that's the program that he was using, and I saw all the success that he was like having, and I saw how he was using the program, and he definitely inspired me to to take it more serious. I watched like YouTube videos on him, and he kind of like was revealing he wasn't when he started, he wasn't in like some huge intricate like studio or anything. He just had his laptop, FL Studio, some speakers if he had that, and like some headphones, and that's really all he needed to to get his start. And I had all those things, including what I consider my own talent. So
Oh, see, that's actually because like when you think producing, like people most think like you need a studio like Dre.
yeah, that is I think that's like that's a common misconception for people that aren't like super like involved, but you really don't need a ton. I don't utilize like a ton. I got like a couple of speakers. There's times where I've even just used like a pair of good headphones, but it's really all you need these days. It's not like back in the day where you had to carry like the big MPCs everywhere and hook it up. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit easier if you know how to use the programs that.
Oh, of course. Now it's kind of crazy that you said that Lex Luger is one of your influences because like I always like to think like he was one of the pioneers for I may get the sound, but the hi-hats when they're like going off like
Yep.
I
Yep. Drum roll hi-hats. Yep.
okay, so I know what to call. What are they called, sir?
I call them like drum roll hi-hats because it's a hi-hat sound, but for them to hit that consecutively, it sounds like a drum roll. So
Yeah.
that's what I call them.
Because we didn't start hearing like that. I remember when that sound came out, like I was like Gucci, Jeezy. Like I remember I wanted artists to rap over those beats so bad back then.
Yeah.
So would you say like Lex Luger is like one of the leading founders of that movement? Of that sound, I say?
I would say so, at least to me, because that's where I heard them the most like prominently, like with him and
Southside?
Southside. Him and Southside. They were both big influences.
Southside is 808 Mafia too, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, because I remember like TM88. There's a
Yep.
yeah. And I always remember that 808 Mafia.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That classic tag.
Yes. Now I like how you brought that up now too, because one of your influences, Alchemist, now too. Like, and Alchemist has that classic. It's like a Just Blaze. Like you can recognize that anywhere when you hear it. So, have you ever played around with the idea of like a producer tag, or did you like, or do you have one and you only put on certain songs, like how?
I do. My producer tag is on everything that I've done except for the most recent Lloyd Banks album, actually.
Okay.
And I actually had a fan recognize my tag, which I thought was pretty interesting because it's kind of like it's a coded message that I hope that as people listen, they kind of come across. But it just it says the stutter. It's like cartoon. But if you listen to the voice, it's from Cartoon Network and it's from Ed, and Eddie, where the classic cartoon
Yeah.
before it led into like the start of a cartoon episode like Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually use that as my tag.
So I bet you find it like funny when artists use like cartoon characters as like references. Like I remember when Joe Budden and Roy, I think it was Royce who dissed Saigon when he's like, "You big up top with skinny legs. Come on, Johnny Bravo." Like when like you only have to watch cartoons to catch lines like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, this is probably an obvious question, but have you sampled cartoons before? Like certain lines of cartoons?
Like vocals.
Yeah, sorry.
Good question. I'm trying to think. Outside of my beat tag, no, I don't think I have. Not into not into like any beats, or at least not recently. But thanks for jogging the idea.
Oh yes, sir. Anytime. I like to say your anime has some of the best lines when you sometimes like when you watch like a movie or something like that, they have like that certain line and it would stick out with you. That's why I kind of wondered if like you ever sample any like a South Park or like Ed, and Eddie or like I'm pretty sure you know Angela Anaconda.
Yeah, like I've used like a couple of clips. I haven't in a while. But I've used like a couple of clips from like movies as intros and stuff like that. But you know how my mind is working, I'm usually thinking like, you know, clearance and all that other stuff. So I haven't done it in a while. But yeah, like those are I get those type of creative ideas like, you know, pretty frequently.
Now, coming up, like I said this in past interviews and to the artists on that label, I even said it too. Growing up for us, the Shady Aftermath era was a second era of death row for our generation because we didn't get to experience death row at its time of its hype because like we were young at the time. But now with the continuation of Dre, you know, Shady Aftermath, GUnit, we got to get like a second dose of what death row was like in the 90s. Now, I always say like this movement, there would never be another movement like that because out of the records they sold, like and the mixtapes,
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Like my full grasp on hip hop was like, you know, the 50 Cent era, G Unit era. And I definitely agree. There will never be another time like that. Like the span of like Eminem up until, you know, when music changed over, started to change over to like streams and stuff. But that era, that was for me, that was like, you know, the beginning and middle of like high school and all that. But it was also when there was just um like an insane amount of like physical copies being sold.
or yeah,
And I miss that. I missed like like you had to be dedicated. You had to wake up, you had to get online when the album came out, you had to wait and then you go physically buy it. And I think I personally think it meant a little bit more when you bought that CD because you were invested. Like now, because it's digital streaming, if you don't like an album, you literally never have to listen again. Like you don't have to listen again. When you buy a CD, you already buy, you know, unless you're gonna go return it, you know, you have it. So you take your time, and even if you pass over a track that you might not like on the first listen, you know, you're more invested in listening to and through whole projects and then listening over and over again. So I kind of feel like, you know, the value on music was a lot higher during that era. That's just my opinion.
no, I fully agree with you now because like even like I like how you said that then like there may not be a track that you may listen to because I remember to Beg for Mercy, Eye for an Eye. I remember I used to always skip that track, but when you have the actual CD and you're bored and you don't have access to it because it's not accessible like that, it's like it grows on you throughout time.
Right, right.
I'll say one thing though, Banks. When the chips ain't down featuring the game, that song still ain't growing on me. But a lot of other songs have grown on me. But I like how you said that too because like that's an error, like a blockbuster error that can never like it can still be replicated because like but it's not like as in demand as it was because we had this store. It was like the CD stores that like they're like Walmart, but they're called HMV, and you can go listen to the actual CD before you buy it.
Oh yeah. I remember that. I've done that a couple of times. It was like the Virgin Mega Store, like where they had like the CDs out like on the wall, and you could like put the headphones on and listen. So yeah, I remember that time too. I mean, I remember that was around when I was in high school. I remember going in there, and I wouldn't leave like the store for like me and my brother wouldn't leave the store for a couple of hours because we were just stuck there listening through like a whole CD.
But that was the time back then now too, because like what you hear a song you just want is like, okay, do I fully want to say? Am I gonna go back to it?
Right, right.
Okay. Now, if it cuts out, we're just gonna come back and rejoin because Zoom don't sponsor us at
Okay.
the moment. But I like how you said now too. So the Shady Aftermath era, like that was one hell of an era now too. Did you have like? Because I remember my first CD was 2001. That's what started it off. But like, did you have like a favorite type of like label back then, like what like Shady Aftermath or GUnit? I remember if Game would have stuck with it, you could probably agree with me on this. If Game would have stuck with Jay, he would have got his own Black Wall Street.
Yeah, I mean, like for with me, like everything up to and after like the Eminem era. Like Eminem, I was a huge Eminem fan. Eminem led to 50 Cent. which led to GUnit, you know, so that was probably my favorite at the time. That was probably like one of my favorite eras. And that's like discounting me listening to like, you know, the Locks, DMX, Nas, you know, because all of that stuff I heard and I still listen to, you know, as I got older. But for the music that grew with me, it was during, you know, it was during that era.
Oh wow. See, like we don't really hear that nowadays. Like it was Eminem, like because like you'll obviously like Eminem. I like Eminem, but it's like we don't really hear now. It's cool to sound there. It's like, dude, like this guy loves hip hop more than people who actually are in hip hop.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I have noticed that you know, for whatever reason, um, you know, I think people kind of almost discredit like Eminem a little bit more than they probably should these days. But I really I think a lot of it is kind of like sheep. I feel like, you know, they'll see like an opinion somewhere and then because it's on social media, if it has, you know, it has a couple of likes or whatever, they'll be like, yeah, you know what, maybe this person is right. I think social media makes it a little bit harder for people to remain opinionated in their opinion. And I think, you know, people don't like to think that they're swayed via music, but they are. And I think, you know, I could go on like a whole spiel about how that's changed music numbers and
Yeah.
streaming and all that stuff. And all that stuff, it is like almost like a psychological effect how social media plays into, you know, when things do well and when they don't.
Now, did you like? Obviously, you kept throughout the label throughout time. Now, on those labels, there was artists who were signed to it but didn't drop. Was there like a certain artist that you were waiting for from one of those labels to drop but didn't drop?
I can't think. I mean, I was um not really. I mean, I had like, the OB. I had OB. I had all his albums. Everybody, E12 albums. Again, it started off with like Eminem, and there was just like a branch to where, you know, everything came after that. Like the 50 Cent leads you to everything with GUnit, and you know, every under Eminem and Dr. Dre after that. It kind of like, you know, I listened to so much music that it was hard to say there was like, you know, stuff that I missed, which I'm sure, you know, there was, but I was just listening so much that it really didn't feel like.
Now, even with music, like being like, I don't like to say music is disposable now with streaming now, but like it's like what you said now too. It'll be like you don't ever have to listen to an album again. So like in a way, streaming it helped and it hurt hip hop because we can find albums that we can never find on CDs.
That's true. So yes, it's like it gives so many more people like accessibility to the music, but the attention span is so short that again, you know, you can skip over. Like I said, you're more invested when you go buy a physical um CD and you got a CD player and it's in your house, you bought it, you're not returning it. You kind of got to listen to it. You have limited, you know, you have more of a limited supply of, you know, music. I think it kind of forced people to be more invested and listen, like thoroughly listen through, um, you know, before saying that they'll never listen to it again. I mean, because even like, you know, if there was like a combination of like streaming and physical copies, like all of these people would be like diamond because, you know, you bought a CD and you'd listen to it till you learn almost all the words for, you know, almost all the songs. So
Yeah.
you have to like, you know, you have to play that song like, you know, like pretty consistently. So I think that's another thing that's kind of overlooked about the physical era of CDs too. Like again, that's all you had. So you know, you drive all over the place. Like maybe with what like a if you were up to speed, you had like a 3, 4 CD changer or whatever it was.
Oh, I
And,
remember those. Yeah.
yeah, and that's all you could listen to. So
I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's been a while since I seen. There was slot six. Do you remember? And also another time that can never be replicated now too. Also with copyright and I guess like really physical is mixtapes now because we got to experience like mixtapes.
right.
Well, mixed CDs.
Yeah.
We didn't actually have cassettes, but like everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that was like its own separate era where you know, it was well, not technically, it was free, but it was creating a higher demand for the stuff that wasn't free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like even like you can find an artist to admit like because like it's kind of crazy how big gangster grills got throughout the years because we seen that from the start.
Right.
So it's like when we see like everybody wanting a gangster grill, it's like you guys remember like some of y'all have gangster grills, right?
Right. Yeah, I think, but what I see is like I almost feel like everything works in cycles. It seems like in fashion and music, like a lot of like retro clothes or things are coming back in music. A lot of like the retro classic hip hop sound is kind of making like a resurgence. And I think I think nostalgia is like a very powerful tool and part of music. Because, you know, it allows you to kind of like almost recreate, you know, like the past at a time in the present and give some of the people that hasn't experienced it at least like a little kind of glimpse of what that is.
Yeah, like because even like even the phone like just like sidekicks like how it's crazy how like the world changed. The one thing I don't miss though is like the 5XL era. Like yeah, I had all the
oh yeah, I'm a little looking back. It was a little cringe.
Yeah,
the double.
The double T-shirts where you can see the sleeve longer than the yellow.
The long shorts that almost could pass for jeans and the big sizes. Looking back,
masks that cover your eyes.
Yup, go like right over your head, over your ears too.
Can't see nothing.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about before, like Shady Aftermath era. That was a really great era now too. So, I was curious. Like, I'm gonna ask about Lloyd Banks, but I want to know like. When you knew you got the Lloyd Banks placement, did you immediately tell your brother? Because you guys grew up with that song.
Yeah, he was the first person I told.
Yeah. Like, when's it coming out? When's it coming out?
Yeah, the first one I got, he was obviously like the first person I told, and then I told like my girlfriend and a couple of other people. I didn't tell like a ton of people because I wasn't sure if it was final, but then I tweeted because at this time obviously he didn't follow me yet. I sent the beat through his engineer. I tweeted, I was like, I'm pretty sure I just heard I got a song with like Lloyd Banks, and then Lloyd Banks retweeted it and he followed me. So at that point I knew that he was definitely going to use whatever he recorded. So
now what we were talking about before, like so when I did my research on you, I understood like you seen the email go out, but you also reached out to his engineer too. Do you think that if you didn't follow up, if you didn't see that email or follow up, find his engineer on IG, do you think it would have went different?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I'd sent like Lloyd Banks a DM like probably like a year ago, but he wasn't following me, just inquiring to send beats. Because that's one thing I do. I reach out. I'm not like one of those people that's worried about how to look later. When you reach out to an artist, like, hey, what's up? Definitely want to send you like some production. Like I've sent that to, literally hundreds and hundreds of artists, major, small. Because sometimes you get an answer, sometimes you won't. But I think that is definitely is not like a super high percentage. It's not a high percentage way. So you got to be innovative, and sometimes you got to find people that maybe have a little less followers, so they're more inclined to actually see the message. I reached out and found like Lloyd Banks's engineer, Jason at the time, and that's how I got the first placement.
Now I understand there was sidewalks that he heard his first beat that he did over yours.
Right. Yeah, that was the first one.
Now when you like see, this is what I like about your production now too, because when you hear the production on the Courtney Edible, like that's the Alchemist influence right there.
Yeah, it was a lot of like the grimy like just like the grimy, like that type of feel. But yeah, I mean, like him, like obviously all the like the Griselda producers, they have they've obviously they've had their influence as well. Um, but at the time, I tried to also think about sending him what I could hear him on and what I feel like he would like rap on the most. I felt like it wasn't the time, at least, to be like super creative and try to send something off the wall to grab his attention. When I first start sending somebody beats, I try to send them stuff that is like, kind of similar to stuff that they've used, before, just to kind of, initially grab, their attention in their ear.
Because you understand your sound.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to honestly listen to most of a whole project, or at least like the last 5 songs somebody put out, before I even DM them or send them a message asking to send beats. Which I don't know if a lot of people do that, because it doesn't seem like it. I see artists post stuff all the time saying like, you guys are sending me like so and so kind of beats. Like these aren't like the kind of beats I use. Yeah, and it's just like, people are like, they're trying to be like so quick with it that, but you kind of shoot yourself in the foot at that point, because, that could be like your shot, and then, they might not never listen to anything you send them again, so I think it's important to try to like listen to the people that you're gonna send beats, listen to them first, and then, always try to check their most recent song that they have up. That's like, that's what I do.
Okay, that's good tips for anyone watching out there. Now, I like how we talked about how everything goes in cycles now too. Now, when you said that you reached out to Lloyd Banks, because like you see the DM from before he was following you, but do you think like if you would have started at that time, it would have been different production? Because like Griselda, like this Griselda sound is like with I always say Rock Marciano inspired that way, but like, do you think that if he would have picked your production around that time, it would have been different from what we heard now?
Honestly, I I would say yeah, because I was very in tune. I would there's no way I wouldn't have known what to send Lloyd Banks, because I listened to him, so much. And even though um, hip hop and his sound has changed, he has a very consistent sound. So I kind of felt like I'd always have an idea of like what to send him. And I feel like, even if it was like the previous year, if I'd had a chance to send him something, I think he would ended up taking it.
Now, when landing on your production, like, because it's not treated as a mixtape, and we all know Banks mixtapes, they pretty much sound like albums. But when he says it's a mixtape, it's a mixtape. Hey, we ain't arguing. But when he
Right.
says it's an album now too, like, what was that feeling like knowing that you got production on an album that he considers an album that you grew up listening to? Like, what was that feeling?
Oh, it was a great feeling. I was excited to just to hear it, just to hear like him on like my beat. Because even if I like, of course, the inevitable one was like his return from like a long hiatus, and even if I didn't have 3 songs on there, I was definitely going to listen to that album and listen intently and closely, like I did with his other stuff. So just to be like a part of like that moment, because I think that was definitely a hip hop like moment,
It
and to
was.
be yeah, and to be, almost like considerably like a lead for that moment, because I was the only producer that had 3 songs on that project. So um it was like it was definitely a good feeling, because it was somebody that, I like you said, grown up like listening to, and I was definitely glad to be a part of it.
Now, for the people who don't know, what song did you produce off that album?
I did Sidewalks, Empathy with Freddie Gibbs, and then Falsified with Rancid.
Oh, shout out to Rats and the guy right there. He's been on the show too. So knowing that not one, not two, but three that you got on there, like when did you find out like you put the features on it, like everybody else?
Yeah, for the Freddie Gibbs one, that was like a
That one
last
came
minute.
late because I remember he tweeted something and then Gibbs responded to that.
Yeah, I think that came late. So I didn't know about. I found that out when he posted like an updated credit list on Instagram. So that's when I found out about that. But after like like we got all like the paperwork and stuff situated, that's when I knew about the features for like the first one, which was first was Ransom, and then I thought I had then I knew I had two other songs, and then one of like Empathy featured like Freddie Gibbs, and I was like probably like the day or two before like the album actually released. So that was a big moment too, because Freddie Gibbs is obviously, he's a very successful and big artist, but Freddie Gibbs is also somebody that I started to build a relationship back with back in the day through Twitter. Like we followed each other. He gave me his email. I sent him 2 beats, um, and he said he wanted to use them. He sent me like his number, and then after that, things just kind of like dematerialized. I know he had like legal stuff going on, and we kind of just lost touch. But I just thought it was like ironic that I ended up getting, yeah, full circle. I ended up getting like a song with him on it through Lloyd Banks. So I thought that was a cool moment too.
I believe like that's how the universe works. Like when you want something, you put it out there. It may not come in that certain moment, but sometimes you just never know. Like if you really want it, if it's like really in your heart, it will come full circle.
Right.
Now, even like with like producing for like somebody like that, like I like after the album comes out now too, like we don't even think about the second one now too. But like, did you follow up with him? Like, did you say like, yo, I appreciate it? I was like, yo, can I send more?
Absolutely. And I had to stay consistent with it too, because obviously, people get busy. There's a lot that goes on. And I had he followed me at that time. He only followed me on like Twitter. So after the album came out, I told him what I thought of the album and stuff. And I was just like, I got a ton more to send, and I kept sending, and I stayed consistent. So I mean, even after the album came out, I was still sending as consistently as I was to get the to get the placements originally. So it was definitely groundwork on like my part, but that's also that's how he works too. He's consistently working on stuff.
And like, so I understand that he had a meet and greet and you went and seen him at one of them.
Oh yeah. He had a show actually on Long Island, because that's where I live. The show was like super close to where I live. So I followed up by going to the show that he was doing. There was like a meet and greet after. I reached out to like some people that I knew that were like helping like host it, to see if I could like get in there and get like access and stuff like that. So they got me in, and then I waited until he was done, taking care of like all his fans and stuff, and then I spoke with him like after and stuff, and introduced myself in person. So that was just another way to follow up and to try to ensure that you follow up, so you can keep a consistent line of work. Because what I'm even learning now, like seeing somebody and meeting them in person, it does go a long way.
Oh yeah, because you can sense the energy like you're face to face with them.
Right.
Oh, you're a nice guy. Wait till all he's done. I'm waiting till he's done meeting his fans and stuff like that. Wow, you're a nice guy, man. I would be. I'm like, I hope this guy don't get tired after all this.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that too, but I know his fans, like, they paid, they paid for the show and they paid for that stuff. So, to me, like, I get it business first on that end and stuff. And, I knew eventually, even if I didn't get to see him at that point, I knew that, we figure out enough, or I'd be consistent enough to at some point hopefully cross paths.
Now, like, even like with their course and that, my bad. I'm just gonna call it Cody. I don't want to stutter it now. For Cody too, now too, I understand now too. Like you pretty much produced half that album. Like it's crazy now too. But also now too, like, how did you find out? Like was it like piece by piece you sent them beats for it, or did you like just find out like I'm using these ones, and he just gave you like the final ones he reviewed?
No, it was beat by beat. I got like in like kind of like a groove. I was sending him a lot, because he hit me like on Instagram. He was like, I'm back to writing like heavy. Start, keep flooding my email. Send me like
He hit
beats.
you.
So, huh?
Oh, he hit you too?
Yeah. So he followed up because I was like there was a time where like I'm sure he took like a little break after the album to kind of like decompress and stuff. I was still sending during that time, but then he specifically reached out and was like, "Yeah, I'm back to work. Keep sending." So I started sending, and like he works quick. Like I send like a beat that, and he would tell me like, "Yo, I really like this beat," and he'd have like the song recorded and done like sometimes within like hours, and say,
Oh,
"All right, hold that one." Like he was like, "All right, so we got one, keep sending," and I send more, and I got like got consistent. Like I guess I consistently was finding the sound that he was looking for, and then like they piled up, and we got like a ton of records done.
do you think like because you met him in person, he kind of senses like your energy? It's like, man, there's a good guy right here. Like, do you think like that also helped too?
I think that it does. Like, I think it helps in a lot of situations because, like you said, it's different when you meet somebody in person. You can kind of sense like their vibes, and so I definitely think, and he's like a very low key, like laid back, like type of person, and he seems like he does kind of work off of like people's vibes and energy. So I think meeting him in person definitely did help.
See, I like how now too, like you could be cocky and like I did this, but I like how you're humble and you're like, I'm grateful for that moment. So it's good to know that there's people still out there who are grateful for the opportunity and not just like I did this, so now I'm done. It's good to see that nowadays because it can also inspire somebody who actually like found you because of it.
Right. And I think a lot of that stuff is like, you know, it's kind of like personality based. And, I try not to diminish anything I've done either. It is obviously to work with a multi-platinum artist like that is a big deal. And, he's selective with who he wants to work with and his beats and things like that. So it's a big deal. But to me, I have so much that I want to do like in music, and for me everything is just like a step, and once I accomplish something I'm already kind of looking ahead to the next. A bit of a gift and a curse. I'm trying to be more present in the moments where I do have like amazing like moments, like producing over half an album for
Yeah,
like Lloyd Banks and things like that. But I also try to say like this was great, this was excellent. But I want to do a whole album, or I want to move up the ladder, and I want to do multiple whole albums. So I just keep everything in perspective for myself. So it's easy to keep yourself humble that way.
sounds good to know. And like even like with like the court like Cody too, like I like how an artist like him, like they'll give an upcoming producer like you a shot, and like that shows like the genuine character. He even said it on Twitter. He's like, "Y'all know me. I give upcoming producers a shot now too." But for them to put like a feature like a Benny the Butcher or like a Conway the Machine on your production must build your confidence too. It's like because they didn't have to. He's like, "I'm keeping this one for myself," and they put the feature on like a more well-known producer.
Right. I sense that like Lloyd Banks he's an artist, and I say that um not to like disrespect any other artist, but I think he wants the best sound that suits him that he can use, and he's one of those people that truly doesn't care if you're a quadruple platinum producer or you got 2 followers on Instagram. If it's the sound that he's looking for and he likes it, I feel like he'll use it.
And another thing that's full circle now too, because I always say this, maybe somebody you probably agree with me on this. Eminem produced some of Lloyd Banks' best songs and some from apart from you, but Eminem produced some of his most like well-known songs that we know.
Right.
So when you look back on it now too, like we all know there's gonna be a Cody 3. So Banks, yo, can you get my guy Cody 3, man? Because yo, we love your production on this. Like Socialize that recently got a video, man. Like I like how like when the certain beats that he picks from you, like now too, like do you have like do you know that you were making those for him? Like I'm sending it for this, or just like kind of ones like I forgot about this.
No, I was honestly I focused. My goal was to get as many songs as I could for Cody too. So I like I focused on like for months. Every beat I made was for the intention of get sending to Lloyd Banks for that project, and um, that's why I ended up getting so many. I was able to kind of lock in on like I guess my own sound, but also his sound too, and just send consistently. So, um, I was surprised. I was like, I wasn't surprised, but at the same time, I'm surprised because also as a producer, when somebody records a song, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make the cut of the album. An album can be 14 songs, and they have 50 songs that they have to cut down to the 14. So, for like, for you to get like that high percentage of the songs mean that you were obviously making some high caliber music.
And dedication.
Right. Yep.
Now, was like Lloyd Banks like the first well-known artist like that we heard, or was it like RJ Payne or Shay Noir or something like
Actually, no. At the time, this was back in maybe 2012. An artist by the name of Dricky Graham. He made the Snapbacks and Tattoo song. That
Oh,
song, that
okay.
song went platinum. As that song was blowing up, I was in touch with him, and I produced a couple of songs for him. The producer, Drummer Boy, had a song with like DJ Paul. I produced a song with him with DJ Paul from 36 Mafia on it. I'd have to like look back at some of like my older credits, but I got to work with like a couple of well-known artists, but um as far as probably like the most recognizable at this point or at that point was probably like Lloyd Banks. Um if I had to, at least if I had to, if I had to pick.
Yeah, it's like what you say, you grew up listening to someone because like I'm pretty sure you said that as a kid, like now too. He's like, yeah, I want to work with him somehow.
Yeah, I mean that's how like when you listen to like people growing up, it's like it's a little bit different. Like when you get to work with them, so definitely it holds its own weight.
Yes, sir. I Lloyd Banks being like the most recognizable artist now too. Do you have any other artists that you grew up listening to that you always want to work with?
Yeah, I mean we talked about like the Shady area. I would love to work with like Eminem, obviously 50 Cent. When he gets back to music, there's Nas, there's a ton. Like the Locks, Jadakiss, like there's so many, and it's almost like I have like lists, like almost like section lists. I have like a list of people who I grew up listening to that that I want to work with before like they retire. There's newer artists that came out, like people like Logic, that I also want to like work with too. But I have like a pretty wide variety because it's not just like super lyrical
Underground,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like mainstream artists that
Yeah, how
trap
about the
artists.
mainstream? Who's a mainstream Cartoon Beats wants to work with?
Drake, the J. Cole's, the Kendrick Lamar's, like Little Baby. Those are all would be people that I'd love to work with.
Do you have like a dream project that you want to do with somebody? Like that's like your bucket list goal?
Right now, honestly, it is Nas.
That could
Like
happen.
I'd love to do like a song or even a whole project like with Nas because um he was like with that like definitely like one of my favorites. Like the Jay-Z too, he's somebody like that. Um, but like bucket list is definitely working with Nas.
Okay. And I like how you said like artists names who are still active now too. Like we may not get albums from them every year, but over time they create that album and you never know.
Right.
And when other artists they check out other artists, because like you said, you want to work with Deluxe, and I know that Styles P and Banks they work closely too. So Styles P heard it. So what's the feeling like knowing like these artists now know who you are? Because like some of them obviously gonna look up the producer, like yo, who produced this?
It was cool. I mean, I reached out to Styles P after the Course of the Inevitable one. And I like he answered, like I got his contact information, he gave me his
You never
number,
heard the dudes.
and I started sending him stuff too. So he's like another one you grow up listening to, and it's just kind of like surreal. Like in the like I guess from on the outside of it, it's like wow, like that's Styles P, or like it's Lloyd Banks. Like while I'm like in the mindset of working, it's like okay, like I need to get I got to get some material. I got to get I got to get some songs done and stuff
You
like
gotta
that.
be serious.
Right, right. So for me, it's try not to take too much time in the like the basking in the who it is, while I try to like understand and recognize that it is an accomplishment. But for me, it's just like I have like goals that my goal is bigger than just getting like the opportunity. The goal is to get like a song and then have it be a great song and be meaningful.
No, that's fully understandable. I get that. Now, with like even like now too, like I like how you said that there because there's people who I interviewed, who I grew up with too, like interviewed Pharaoh Monch when you're just like in my head, I'm like, yo, this is Pharaoh Monch or like MOP, but at the same time though, you're keeping your composure and you're being professional. But like after you probably like, yo, that's crazy what happened.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the Lloyd Banks stuff, because like just listening to like his like lyrics and growing up on like his punchlines where I knew him by heart and was like walking around like saying them to people and stuff. Like there's like just to like hearing him on like your beats and stuff, and then making like the caliber of songs that he did like on Course of the Inevitable 2 was just like wow, like that like this is cool, and it's not just cool because he's Lloyd Banks. It's cool because he's somebody that I literally grew up listening to.
Yeah, it's like it's literally a part of your childhood.
Right? Yeah, it is absolutely.
And like you see, it's good to know now too. Like your Cartune Beatz is a good guy now too. So for upcoming production that that's coming out, well, like, let's say finalized. Can you say any name? We have like RJ Payne. I seen like Shane Ward.
Yeah, I did like the intro and like a skit on Shay Noir's Food for Thought album. For stuff I know coming out for sure, I've been this is like older work that I'm just still waiting to come out. Conway's artist Jay Skis. I
Okay.
got 3 songs on his Abolish Uncertainty album. One of them has like Freeway on it. Um, Me and RJ Payne, we're still finishing up Leatherface 4. We just released Bring the Pain with Method Man and Inspector Deck. And then we followed that up with Bullets and Broken Glass featuring Bun B and Ice T, which I still think is pretty crazy that I got like Ice T, like literally the pioneer of like gangster hip hop
Thanks to rap.
rap,
Dude, who
rapping
inspired Eminem?
rap exactly rapping like on my beat. And he actually like he followed me on like Twitter, and I reached out and said like that verse was like dope. He answered, so I thought that like I think those like those little things, like I said, I try to take the moment to say like yeah, they are cool. But yeah, RJ Payne and well, he said it himself, so I think I can say it. Yeah, Lloyd Banks, and we got a Lloyd Banks and RJ Payne record that I produced. um, I got stuff with Heem,
Okay.
Benny
Yeah, Black
the,
Supremacy.
yeah, Benny the Butcher's artist. I got a lot of stuff. I've been working with I don't know how big you are in like Atlanta rap. Deontay Hitchcock, I've been working with. We got like a couple of songs done. He's just waiting like for him to put stuff out. Um, Kembe from TDE, or he works with like he's
Yeah.
affiliated with TDE. I got records with him done. I got a lot of stuff like I'm just kind of waiting on to get out there. So I just been staying like consistent. I've been sending the styles whenever he's back in his recording mode. I'm hoping I can still get on some of his projects.
His last two films.
Yeah, I'm hoping I could get on at least one of them, but see if I can make that happen. Been sending to like Chic Luch.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So right now it's kind of just a waiting game. And I know how that can be because again, you can have like a record done and then it might not come out. But I also want to make sure I shout out my twin brother, who goes by 800 Hertz. He actually he has two records done with Roddy Ricch. They haven't come out yet, but they are definitely done. One of them, Roddy Ricch actually put in a snippet, or somebody put in a snippet, and they previewed it. So obviously that's a huge placement. So I'm hoping, yeah, I'm hoping that ends up on his next project. But in like interviews, when I do get the chance, I try to always make sure I shout out like my brother and what he's doing and stuff like that.
Of course. Of course. What's his producer name again?
800 Hertz.
Make sure you go over at 800 Hertz, man. Yo, salute to you, 800. I see you too. I'm gonna check out that Rowdy Rich now. You may inspire me to listen to Rowdy Rich. I heard the thoughts. So Cartune Beatz now. I really do appreciate taking out your time out of your day to do this interview. I just want to let you know in the interview, I didn't want to make this all about Lloyd Banks. I wanted to make this about you because I know how some people are. They see you work for certain artists, but it's like I wanted to know like the Cartune Beatz name, like how you got into an artist that you listen to. So I'm glad that you're very informative and not standoffish. So I salute you. And man, if you ever want to work with like somebody, man, if I ever like, cause I can have relationships too, man. So if you ever want to work with an artist, man, if I see you post something on Twitter, I may talk to that artist. I'm like, hey, man, you should work with this guy, man. Man, he's a good guy.
Definitely, I definitely appreciate that. And we'll talk. I'm one of those people. Again, I'm not too cool or too big to bridge gaps. If somebody can reach somebody that I can't, again, I have like things I want to accomplish. I'm still building my resume. I have like goals I want to reach. So again, I'm not one of those people that's like too cool. I'm like, oh no, I don't need anybody to do that for me. I want to get as long as I'm keeping my integrity. If I have like a goal, I just want to meet that goal, and I'll get there however I need to, as long as it's it's in the right way. So I definitely appreciate that. And also I appreciate you, the questions that you asked, because they were, like person centered with me as an individual. But I also understand, like, working with like these big artists that, a lot of people are gonna have questions, and especially somebody like Lloyd Banks, who's like, they consider him pretty like mysterious. There's gonna be a lot of questions about like his process and things like that. So I definitely understand it.
Well, it's good to know that you're understandable about that now too, because like, and another thing is now too, like, I won't ask anything, but the only thing I may ask you, Cartune Beatz, you want to come back on the show, man? So like, I'm very humble like that now too. So like you said, even if you put me on, because I always one thing about me now too, I love discovering new artists and new producers. So if you ever have anybody that you figure that should be dope, that some people should listen to that they haven't got that shirt, just let me know, man, because we're all about being early on here. Like Shay, man, I remember Shay Noir. I think I interviewed her in 2019, 2018. I remember I said to her, I was like, yo, girl, you are gonna be big, and now look.
Yep, she's out of here. Yep, super talented.
That's another thing is too now too. What I realize is like I understand like a person who has talent. Even before media, I knew certain artists were gonna blow. Like Slaughterhouse, I always knew they were gonna be big. So when I see a producer like you making his rounds and making good rounds with like well-known names, I'm like, man, this guy's gonna be huge in 5 years. So Cartune Beatz, I wish you nothing but success. Welcome back on the show anytime. Is there anything you'd like to let the people know, sir?
Just my social media is Cartune Beatz, CartuneBeatz. I got an Instagram, I got a Twitter. Go ahead, follow me. And I appreciate everybody that reaches out and the support. And just my message for upcoming producers is stay consistent and keep going. Like the music industry can be difficult and discouraging, but you only really lose when you stop and you quit and you give up. So just keep going, keep grinding, and stay focused.
Oh, I'm gonna take some information too. Man, Cartune Beatz, man, you're a real one, man. So like I said, I'm gonna put all your information in the description below. So if y'all want to see them, do you have a website or anything?
Well, actually, I'm working on that right now. I'm working on a lot of different things, but I should have a website soon. I got like a link tree in my bio on my Instagram with links to like a lot of the work that I've recently done. But yeah, I'm working on a website.
All right, like I said, yeah, if you want to contact my man, it's in the link below, man. Come respectful. And hey, man, Cartune Beatz, man, I see big things for you, man. Welcome back on the show anytime.
Appreciate that, man. I'd love to come back.
Of course, man, anytime.